Over the years, archaeologists have unearthed many ancient Egyptian artifacts. These artifacts provide a fascinating glimpse into the lives of people who lived in this amazing civilization. Ancient Egypt has the most incredible ancient Egyptian artifacts in the world. From the Rosetta Stone to the mummies, there is so much to see and learn about this fascinating civilization. In this video, we'll take a look at some of the most famous and interesting ancient Egyptian artifacts. First, let's look at an interesting fact about ancient Egypt. Have you ever wondered, what is the net worth of the Tutankhamun mask? Pharaoh Tutankhamun's death mask is worth around $2 million. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are talking about ancient Egyptian artifacts. What do you think about these artifacts? To answer these questions, let's jump into the video. One of the first ancient artifacts is Tutankhamun's mask. The Tutankhamun mask is a gold replica of the Pharaoh Tutankhamun from the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt, reigned from 1334 to 1325 BC. It is presently on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo after being uncovered by Howard Carter in tomb KV62 in the Valley of the Kings back in 1925. One of the most well-known pieces of art in existence and a well-known icon of ancient Egypt is the death mask. It stands 54 centimeters tall, weighs about 10 kilograms or 321.5 troy ounces, and is adorned with semi-precious stones in the form of Osiris, the Egyptian deity of the afterlife. The shoulders of the mask bear the hieroglyphic writing of an old spell from the Book of the Dead. The mask's 2.5 kilogram plated beard broke off in 2015 and had to be quickly put back on by museum staff, necessitating restoration. Then we have the Narmer Palette. The Narmer Palette is a 31st century BC Egyptian cosmetic palette. There are some of the earliest hieroglyphics. Some say the tablet portrays Upper and Lower Egypt under King Narmer. The Narmer Palette, the Scorpion Mace Head, and the Narmer Mace Heads were all found in a huge deposit at Nekhen. The king wears the level red crown of Lower Egypt on one side and the bulbed white crown of Upper Egypt on the other. The palette reflects numerous classic Egyptian aesthetic principles that were likely already established when it was constructed. Moving on, we have Canopic Jars. To keep and preserve the owner's viscera for the afterlife, the ancient Egyptians utilized canopic jars during the mummification process. They were frequently fashioned of ceramic or limestone carvings. From the period of the Old Kingdom until the late period or Ptolemaic period, when the viscera were simply wrapped and deposited with the body, the ancient Egyptians employed these jars. Each canopic jar was designated for a particular organ, thus the viscera were not preserved in a common container. The name canopic refers to early Egyptologists' erroneous link with the Greek myth of Canopus. Alternative explanations state that the name stems from Canopus, a site in the western Nile Delta close to Alexandria where human-headed jars representing the deity Osiris were worshipped. Old Kingdom canopic jars had a simple cover and infrequently featured inscriptions. Inscriptions increased in frequency during the Middle Kingdom, and the lids frequently took the shape of human heads. By the 19th dynasty, each of the four lids had a representation of one of Horus's four sons, serving as the organ's watchmen. Moreover, another ancient artifact is the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is a granodiorite stele that has 3 copies of an edict that King Ptolemy V Epiphanes of the Ptolemaic dynasty issued at Memphis, Egypt in 196 BC. The texts in the top and middle are written in hieroglyphic and demotic characters, respectively, while the text at the bottom is written in ancient Greek. The Rosetta Stone is essential for understanding Egyptian writing since the changes between the 3 versions of the edict are minimal. The stone was reportedly initially set in a Hellenistic temple at Sais. It was presumably moved in late antiquity or the Mamluk dynasty and used to build Fort Julian at Rashid in the Nile Delta. Pierre-François Bouchard made his discovery in Egypt during Napoleon's invasion in 1799. It was the first ancient Egyptian bilingual writing unearthed in modern times because it could decipher the hieroglyphic alphabet. Furthermore, let's see who was the Nefertiti Bust. The Nefertiti Bust is a bust of Nefertiti, the great royal wife of Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten. made of painted limestone covered in stucco. Due to its discovery at the Thutmose workshop in Amarna, Egypt, the piece is thought to have been created about 1345 BCE. One of the most replicated works from ancient Egypt is this one. One of the most well-known historical figures and a symbol of feminine beauty is Nefertiti. In 1912, a German team led by Ludwig Borchardt discovered the bust in Thutmose's workshop. Since its discovery, it has been held at Germany's bank basement, Merkers Keiselbach salt mine, Dahlheim Museum, Egyptian Museum in Charlottenburg, and Altes Museum. Before World War I, it was in Berlin's Neues Museum. Another ancient artifact is the Khufu Statue. An ancient Egyptian sculpture known as the Khufu Statuette of Khufu figure is made of ivory. It was discovered in 1903 by Sir William Matthew Flinders Petrie while working on Qam el-Sultan in Abydos, Egypt, and is noteworthy both historically and archaeologically. It shows Khufu, a 4th dynasty Old Kingdom pharaoh and the man responsible for the Great Pyramid's construction. Although there are other statue pieces, this little sitting image of Khufu is the only three-dimensional representation of the god that has been found that is entirely whole. The majority of Egyptologists believe the statue to be from Khufu's reign and to be contemporaneous with him. But because of the strange provenance, the date of the object has frequently been called into question. Next, we will talk about what was the Dendra Zodiac. The well-known Dendra Zodiac sculpture is an Egyptian bas-relief that hangs from the pronaos of an Osiris chapel in the Hathor Temple at Dendra. It has representations of Taurus and Libra. This church was built in the late Ptolemaic era, and Tiberius III constructed the pronaos. Due to this, Jean-Francois Champollion assigned the relief to the Greco-Roman era, despite the fact that the majority of his contemporaries thought it was from the New Kingdom. According to John H. Rogers, the relief is the sole comprehensive map that we have of an ancient sky, and it has been hypothesized that it serves as the foundation for later astronomical systems. It is now on exhibit in Paris at the Musée du Louvre. Up next, we will talk about the statue of Mencora. Mencora, also known by his Hellenized titles Mykerinos, was an ancient Egyptian ruler pharaoh of the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. In contrast to Manatheo's assertion that he succeeded Khafre to the throne, archaeological evidence indicates that he really succeeded Khafre. Menkare gained fame for his Giza mausoleum, the Pyramid of Menkare, and his statue triads, which depicted the king with his wives, Reketri and Khmerenneti, as well as with numerous gods. In addition, we have the Merneptah stele. Merneptah, an Egyptian pharaoh who reigned from 1213 to 1203 BCE, built the Merneptah stele. It's called the Israel stele of Merneptah's victory stele. Flinders Petrie discovered it at Thebes in 1896. It's now in Cairo's Egyptian Museum. The last 3 words of the book relate to an Egyptian campaign in Canaan. The book recounts Merneptah's victory against ancient Libyans and their allies. Since most scholars interpret line 27's hieroglyphs as Israel, it's often called the Israel stele. Alternative translations aren't often used. Lastly, let's see who was the bust of Akhenaten. The 18th dynasty's Akhenaten, also known as Akhenaten, Akhenaten, or Akhenaten, reigned for 17 years and is renowned for having abandoned conventional Egyptian polytheism in favor of monolatrism. The statue of Akhenaten was created in the Amarna style, which was characterized by elevated heads and an overall feeling of movement in the sculptures. This brings us to the end of our video. Don't be afraid of giving suggestions on future videos in the comment section below.